please sit in Swastikasana, or just a loose cross-legged pose, just crossed at the ankles rather than the pose that we looked at last week, and then pull the buttock flesh out of the way on one side and then the other side, and then press down lightly through the fingertips, just lightly to help to lift the chest. It's the sense of the breastbone lengthening up towards the ceiling. So you get length in both sides of the trunk, and then release the hands and bring them together into Namaskarasana. So palms and fingers just evenly making contact. Thumbs just rest against the breastbone, fingertips pointing away. And then please close the eyes to begin the class. And as the eyes close, careful you don't drop the breastbone away from the thumbs. So have the thought that the breastbone is coming forward to meet the tip of the thumbs. And as you begin to bring your attention to the breath, just notice when it is that you're breathing in and when it is that you're breathing out. So not trying to change the breath, but just beginning to bring the awareness to the breath, so that not holding the breath. And then as you follow your inhalations and exhalations, see if you can soften the eyes. It's the sense of the eyes just receding back into their sockets. Keep the jaw relaxed, so a slight space between the lower teeth and the upper teeth. And then think of the throat and the abdomen being soft too, so not gripping the stomach back. And you'll begin to notice as you keep the attention on the breath that with each inhalation there's this slight sense of extension that ripples through the spine. And on the exhalation, careful not to compress the spine or shorten the spine, but you allow the ribs to soften. Now keep the lift in the spine and the chest, but slowly nod the forehead in the direction of the fingertips. Keep the eyes closed as you release the palms to the inner knees, and then on inhalation slowly open the eyes and look up. So please come to stand. Just move any props out of the way. And then stand in Tadasana, but today have the feet about hip distance apart. Just to remind you, a good measure for that is if you do start with the feet together, you take the toes apart and then bring the heels more or less in line with the toes. And for most people, that will give a good approximation of being hip distance apart. And then just have the arms long by your side. And then think of as if you're just drawing the arm up into the socket. So it's very easy just to let the arms hang off the shoulder, but see if you can just have a sense of drawing the arm, the bicep area, the tricep area, back into the ball and socket joint effectively. And then with that sense of just drawing the arms up into the socket, see if you can just lift the shoulders up to the ears and then just let them fall away from the ears. So you're just trying to draw the shoulders up to the ears and then just let them release away from the ears. But as you release the shoulders away from the ears, you're still trying to keep a sense of the bicep and the tricep lengthening up towards the ball and socket joint. And then from here, bring the shoulders up to the ears. See if you can roll them forward and down, and then as though you're squeezing them together behind you. So you come up, forward, down, roll them back, so that the outer tip of the shoulder is actually drawing a circle in space. And once you've done a few circles in one direction, then reverse. So you think of the shoulder coming forward, up to the ear, squeeze the shoulders together behind you, and then down, and then forward, up to the ears, squeeze together behind and down, and then once more forward up to the ears, squeeze them together and down. And then from here, bring your fingertips onto your shoulders, and then try and circle the elbows together, and then think of taking them wide behind you. So you try and touch the elbows together at the front, and you circle the elbows wide and behind you. So what's happening here, just as we keep the circles going, is that as the elbows come together, the shoulder blades just broaden away from each other, and as the elbows go wide, it's just a very gentle stretch for some of the pectoral muscles, which can also impact the shoulder. And then just reverse the direction, so you bring the elbows forward, you take them wide behind you, so together, big circle round and back, and then just 2 more like that, big generous circles. But try to make sure you're keeping the head on top of the spine, that you're not shortening through the back of the neck as you do that. Good. And then just bring the arms back down by the side, but again, don't let the arms drop. You want to sort of keep a connection of the biceps lengthening into the shoulder joint. And then just bring your right hand behind the back, and then just think of your reaching over to the other side. So wherever you touch is fine, just reaching to the other side of the body, around the ribs, and then down and wide. And then do the same with the other arm. So you take it out to the side, you turn, and then you're just reaching behind you a few times. The idea here is just to begin to get that shoulder blade moving back a little bit. Good. And then pause and bring the backs of both hands into the area of the lower back. I'll just show you that from the side. And then think of just taking your elbows back in space, and then release. So you can press the backs of the hands into the area of the lower back as you take the elbows back. And as you're taking the elbows back, just notice that what tends to happen is the shoulder blades pinch together behind you. They come closer to the spine to facilitate the taking of the elbows back. And now see if you can initiate this movement, not so much from thinking of the elbows, but thinking up. The shoulder blades can draw together behind me, and that will help to move the elbows. So you thinking of initiating the movement by first drawing the shoulder blades together, and then you release. And again, you think of just initiating the movement from the shoulder blades to pin the elbows together, and then once more like that, shoulder blades drawing together to pin the elbows back. Good. And then release. Now, bring your left fingers to the right, just at the base of the neck here, so you can feel sort of these muscles, the trapezius muscles, just here. And then see if you can bring your right arm out to shoulder height. But actually, I'll just show you from the side, I'm not completely out to the side, I'm just slightly in front of the body. So I just bring it out to the side, turn the palm towards the ceiling, and then as you begin to take the arm up towards the ceiling, see if you can keep these muscles where the left fingers are soft. And then you bring the arm back down by the side. So you see, what often tends to happen is people lift the arm, they'll do this kind of movement where if you put your fingers there, you can feel it's all engaged, the trapezius muscle. And what you're trying to do is keep that soft as the arm comes out to the side, turn the palm towards the ceiling and extend the arm up, and then release that down by the side. So what happens is, it's not the shoulder blade, if you think of my hands as being the shoulder blade, it's not the shoulder blade going straight up to help lift the arm. what happens is the shoulders rotate, and they wrap around the ribs. So let's do that on the other side. So you bring your right fingertips to the left trapezius area there. I hope you can see that. And then bring the arm out to the side, but slightly in front. And then when you get to shoulder height, think of turning the whole of the arm to turn the palm. And as you extend the arm up towards the ceiling, you're just thinking, can you keep that trapezius area soft? And then you bring the arm down again and then turn the palm back towards the side of the body. So once more, again, so go slowly, so you're keeping the trapezius soft, the upper trapezius, turn the palm towards the ceiling and then extend the arm up. Good. And then see if you can release it back down. And now try both arms out, so out to the side and slightly in front of you. Think of rolling the whole of the arm, including the shoulder, and then think of bringing both arms up towards the ceiling. See, if you look at my neck area or my shoulder area, so I'm not doing this, I'm letting the neck be long to take the arms up towards the ceiling, and then you bring the arms all the way back down again. And then once more, just up towards the line of the shoulder, pause there, roll the shoulders to turn the arms, keeping the hands soft and the wrists soft, and then once more extend the arms up. Just careful again that you're not hiking the shoulders up to do that. You're feeling maybe that rotation that takes place, and then bring the arms all the way back down. Good. Now, please bring your right arm forward just to shoulder height, and then bring it back. So you take the arm to shoulder height, and then think of it, you're just reaching forward, and then let the arm come back and bring it back down by the side. Now, one of the things that often happens is to bring the arm forward is there's a big contraction of this area here, the pectoral area, or pec minor. It's the muscle that often gets overworked from mobile phones. But see, as you bring the arm to shoulder height, bring the other hand to underneath the armpit area and see if you can feel how the shoulder wraps around the ribs. Wraps around the ribs to bring the arm forward, and then think of taking the arm towards the ceiling. And then bring it back, let the shoulder release. You have a very important set of muscles that are responsible for bringing your shoulder around the ribs. It's called serratus anterior for those who are interested. And often it gets very kind of lazy and weak. And what people tend to do, therefore, is really contract through this area rather than feel that wrapping round action. So just try that on the other side. Just bring your left arm to shoulder height. You can bring the other hand just underneath the armpit to help sense that movement of wrapping the shoulder around the ribs, and then think of extending the arm towards the ceiling. Tailbone pointing down towards the floor, tummy nice and lifted, and then release the arm back down. And now bring both arms forward. And again, just think of it's the shoulders are wrapping round the ribs, and then begin to extend the arms up. Careful you're not pushing the ribs forward or pushing the pelvis forward to assist with you taking the arms up. And then bring the arms all the way back down by the side. So Ardha Hastasana arms, just another way of thinking about it. And then this time bring the arms forward. So again, I allow the shoulders to wrap around. Interlace the fingers for Badanguliasana. Turn the palms away. And then think of slowly extending the arms up by the ears. But again, just be careful you're not tightening through the upper part of the trapezius to bring the arms up, and then release the arms halfway down, change the interlace to your other interlace, turn the palms away, and then once more extend the arms up. That's it. And then bring the arms all the way back down and release. Now, just return to taking the arms out to the side, and then turn the left palm up as the right palm turns down, and then switch that movement so that you're looking to your right palm, left arm is turned down, and then switch that again. And if you'll notice what my one shoulder is rolling forward and one shoulder is turning back, and vice versa. So that, and also the ribs turn, the chest turn, they're part of this movement. And once you get the idea that it's not so much the hands pulling the arms, it's really I'm initiating this movement from my chest and my ribs. I'm just showing you this now because it's going to feature later on in class. But now pause and then just interlace the hands behind the back and think of that movement we did earlier of drawing the shoulders together, and then as if you're drawing them down towards the back of the pants. So you get a big opening in the chest. And then release that and change the interlace to your other interlace. So you roll the shoulders back and squeeze them together effectively, and see if you can lengthen the hands down towards the heels. Good. And then release. Good. Just come and stand in Tadasana again, and then bring your weight over onto your right leg, and then come back. And then bring the weight over onto the left leg, and then come back. So now, as you bring the weight over onto the right leg, keep your left leg straight and just lift the heel. So, and what you'll feel is the left hip hitches up, the left side shortens, your right side gets longer, and if you put your hands here, you'll feel your outer hip muscles working very strongly for you, and then come back. And then shift the weight over onto the left leg. Keep your right leg straight as you just lift the heel. So would like you to feel, or just be aware that what happens is the hip hitches up. These muscles, your oblique muscles on the right hand side, are working like crazy, and so are your outer buttock muscles on the standing leg. And then come back. And now see, can you bring the weight once more onto your right leg? See how you get taller on the leg. Outer hip muscles are working. This hip has hitched up slightly. And then can you turn your left leg out and just bring that foot to rest above the other ankle without pushing out into the standing leg hips. You have to keep that sense of being tall on that standing leg. And then come back. And then shift the weight so you get taller onto your left leg. So the right hip hitches, your left outer buttock muscles or hip muscles are working like crazy. And then you turn the right leg out and just see if you can rest that foot above the other ankle. So, and just breathing here, just working on this standing balance, and then come back. Now, that variation is the basic sort of tree pose. So if that was already a lot of work for you, if you feel that was enough, stay with that variation. But if possible, see if you can bring the weight over onto your right leg again. So the...
Sorry, Stewart.
Hi, Julie.
Can you hear me?
Yeah?
Yeah, I just want to ask, when you do the balancing from left foot or the right foot,
Yeah.
does the weight, because my weight tended to go towards the front of my foot.
No, it should be more in the heel,
It should be in the heel, shouldn't it?
Yeah.
This is quite painful if it's just on the ball of your foot.
Absolutely it is, yeah. I'll see if I can show something for that, yeah. Can you
Okay.
mute yourself again? Yeah, I'll do it, yeah. Okay. So Julie's question was just about when you come onto the standing leg, should the weight be all in the front of the foot? And you can see it shouldn't. It should be, as in normal Tadasana standing, 80% of the weight should be in the heel. So if you're experiencing the weight in the front of the foot, either your leg is bent, it's not properly standing, or you might have brought the pelvis forward and the back. So bring your weight onto your right leg again. So again, see if you can feel this action in the pelvis so that the left hip hitches up slightly, but you're not pushing out into the standing leg hip. And for those who are able to, turn the left leg out and see if you can bring that foot to the root of the right inner thigh. Now, if you're feeling the weight in the front of the foot, probably means the pelvis has come forward or your tummy is dropping forward. So you might need to keep the tummy lifted back to the spine. And then for those who have the balance, see if you can take the arms up into Ardha Hastasana arms. But check again that you're not trying to lift the arms up from the trapezius, because that will disturb the balance if you are doing that. You want the weight to be going down through the standing leg, not trying to lift yourself off the standing leg. And then bring the arms back down by the side, and then bring the left leg down. So hope that helped, Julie. So bring the weight onto your other leg, onto the left leg. So can you see how I transfer the weight through the pelvis? The head moves over slightly, outer hip is in. You turn your right leg out and then go carefully, see if you can bring that foot to the root of the standing inner thigh. But if that's not possible, keep it above the ankle. And then once you have your balance, keeping the tummy back, the weight back into the heel, see if you can take both arms up into Ardha Hastasana arms. Just careful that your lifted foot isn't pressing into the knee. So again, your weight should be going down into the standing leg, not trying to lift yourself away from the leg through the shoulders. Breath nice and easy. And then bring the arms back down, good, and then release the leg, good. Now, keep the feet hip distance apart. I'll just turn to the side, and then take a breath in, and as you breathe out, imagine there is a chair behind you, and you're going to sit down into a chair. Just bringing the arms up in line with the shoulders, don't try and take them up by the ears for this version. And then carefully come back up to standing. So if you notice, try to keep the head of the shin back. You don't want this to happen where you're falling into the knees and the front of the foot again. So you want to think of keeping the head of the shin back in space so that the movement of sitting down comes because your pelvis is moving backwards, backwards, backwards. And then you come back up to standing. Good. So Uttanasana, chair pose, great for strengthening the buttock muscles, the hip muscles. But we'll do it 2 more times. Careful, as you sit back, get my arm out of the way, you don't drop the ribs forward. So you have to keep the ribs collected, the tummy lifted. You take a breath in to begin with. As you exhale, see if you can stay looking forward as you sit the bottom back, keeping the head of the shin back, and then carefully come back up to standing. Again, just rest in Tadasana for a moment. Think of the shoulders, that's it, just roll them back, still keeping the arms connected into the ball and socket joint, so not just hanging the arms off there. And then take another breath in. As you breathe out, tummy back, see if you can sit back, sit back, sit back, sit back, as you're looking forward into Uttanasana, and then carefully come back up. You want the mats parallel to the screen if that's possible for you, and then please stand in the middle of your mat. And then bring the middle fingers to touch, bend the knees, and then take your feet standing pose distance apart. Just bring the hands onto the hips to begin with. So even here, so Julie's question was about the weight going into the front of the foot. So it's quite easy to let the tummy drop forward and the pelvis come forward, and that will trap the weight in the front of the foot. So you want to think of keeping the tummy lifted, tailbone down, even in this transition pose. Now make sure the feet are facing forward to begin with. The little toe sides of the feet are lined up with the outside edges of the mat. And then turn your left foot in slightly. So you just lift the front of the foot, pivot it in, and then put the front of the foot back down. And then turn the whole of the right leg out. So the foot turns, the knee turns, the inner thigh turns to the outer thigh, and you just want to check that your front heel is in line with the back heel or arch. Now both legs, inner thighs to outer thighs. That's the direction you're trying to give, rather than dropping the knees towards the floor. So inner thighs to outer thighs. And then see, can you bring the arms up again to shoulder height? So shoulder height, careful you're not lifting the arms up through the trapezius muscles. Think of the shoulder blades broadening out to the side. And then lengthen your right arm towards the ceiling and just reach out a little bit today. Bring the left hand onto the outer hip, and then bring your right hand just to somewhere, so for me it's the thigh. I'm not deliberately trying to get down anywhere near the floor. And then turn the chest to look forward. Turn the chest to look forward. You're thinking of trying to keep length in both sides of the trunk. And now bring your attention to your right arm, and just check that you're not rolling that shoulder forward. So can you think of that shoulder rolling back so that the shoulder stays nice and open? And then if you have that, then you can begin to go a little bit further, but careful as you go further that your shoulders don't try and contract forward. Good. And now think of your left shoulder, taking that a little bit further back. So one way of thinking of the elbow pulling it back, but see if you can think of that shoulder drawing it back towards the spine to try and keep the chest nice and open. Both shoulders open, and then inhale to come up, bring the feet back to center, bend the knees, and then step back to the middle. Just come back to Tadasana. As you come back to Tadasana, careful you're not letting the arms just hang off the ball and socket joint. So again, you want to think of just lengthening the biceps and the triceps towards the shoulder. Bring the middle fingers to touch, bend the knees, and then again, step your feet standing pose distance apart. Again, just be aware, is the weight in the front of the feet? If it is, you'll need to lengthen the quadriceps back, thigh muscles back to the groins, keep the tummy lifted and the ribs nice and soft. Now turn your right foot in slightly, and then turn the whole of the left leg out. So foot turns, knee turns, inner thigh turns to outer thigh. And again, just to remind you, it's a sense of both legs. Even though they're not moving from this position, the muscles you're trying to train to spin from the inner thigh to the outer thigh. And then lengthen the arms just to shoulder height. Again, see if you can feel that turning, or visualize that turning. and then lengthen your left arm towards the ceiling, and again begin just to reach out just a little bit, so you can bring the right hand onto the outer hip and the left arm just by the thigh. So there shouldn't be any weight in this left arm, it should be light. The action is again that drawing of the upper arm back into the shoulder. Just check your roll that shoulder back, and then the left shoulder, right shoulder, sorry, see if you can take further behind you. And then inhale to come up, bring the feet back to centre, bend the knees, and then come back to standing. Teeter Trikonasana, or extended triangle pose. And then we're going to repeat that, so you bring the middle fingers to touch. Step the feet nice and wide apart. Good. Bring the hands onto the hips again. Just check again what's happening to the tummy, what's happening to the ribs. Turn your left foot in slightly. Turn the whole of the right leg out. And then this time extend the arms to shoulder height. Lengthen the right arm towards the ceiling, and then begin to reach out. See, it's the trunk that's reaching out. Again, don't go too low. It's not about going to the floor. Left hand on the outer hip. Now, once again, your right arm, try to roll that shoulder to keep the shoulder open. And then you bring the left arm just in line with the collarbone, not necessarily up towards the ceiling. And then this left arm, again, careful you're not rolling the shoulder forward and tightening in the trapeze. Oh, it feels horrible when I do that. Keep the shoulder rolling down the back, so that shoulder again. So both arms, the chest nice and open. And then inhale to come up, bring the feet back to centre, bend the knees, and then come back. Oh, that was horrible. I feel that all going into spasm very quickly. Won't be showing that again. So stand in the middle of the mat again, bring the middle fingers to touch, bend the knees, and then take the feet nice and wide apart. Turn your right foot in slightly. Turn the whole of the left leg out, foot, knee, inner thigh to outer thigh, and then plant that foot down. Both legs, of course, super straight. Rotate the arms out to the side, lengthen the left arm towards the ceiling, begin to reach out. Again, don't go to your maximum depth tonight, because we're just sort of using the poses to explore these actions in the shoulders. Now, left shoulder, roll that back. And then take your right arm, again, just in line with the collarbone, and check you're not rotating the shoulder forward. Keep it back. So you want those trapezius muscles to be long again. And then if you have your balance, you can begin to look up towards the top hand, but otherwise stay looking down at the big toe. Breathe, breathe, breathe. And then inhale to come up. Bring the feet back to centre, bend the knees, and then come back to the middle. So Teeter Trikonasana. Just rest in a Teeter Trikonasana. Just check again, you're keeping the connection of the arms into the ball and socket joint. And then bring the middle fingers to touch again, bend the knees, and then step the feet nice and wide apart. Keep the hands on the hips. Turn your left foot in slightly, turn the whole of the right leg out. Good. And then keeping the hands on the hips, can you begin to bend your right knee towards a right angle? You're trying to bring the thigh parallel towards the floor, back leg stays strong, back inner thigh to outer thigh, and then bring the palm of the right hand to the inner right knee, and just use that hand to push the knee back a little bit. So you don't want that knee to drop in. And as the hand pushes the knee back, use your other hand to remind the left thigh flesh to turn to the inner thigh to the outer thigh. And then see, can you sink a little bit more, but keeping the action in the legs. And then inhale to come up, bring the feet back to centre, bend the knees, and then come back to the starting position. And then we'll go to the other side, so middle fingers to touch, bend the knees, step the feet nice and wide apart. Again, just check, tummy isn't dropping forward, you want to keep that collected back. So I like the idea of a drawing pin 2 inches below the navel, but that being pushed in, but I suppose it ought to be pulled in to get the correct action. And then turn your right foot in slightly, so you turn that in, turn the whole of the left leg out, foot, knee, inner thigh to outer thigh. Keep the hands on the hips as you slowly begin to bend the left leg. You think of the left sit bone going straight down towards the floor. Bring the palm of the left hand onto the inner knee and keep it moving back. So you don't want that knee to drop in. And then your other hand can just again remind that inner flesh to roll to the outer thigh. See if you can sink a little bit more, but without dropping the tummy forward. And then carefully straighten the front leg, bring the feet back to centre, and then come back to the starting position. Good. Good. So now we'll add the arms. So bring the middle fingers to touch, bend the knees, step the feet nice and wide apart, and think of the arms again, they're growing out of the back to come to shoulder height. Even here, you want to make sure you've got the sense of drawing the arm into the socket, so it's not going away from the... Now turn your left foot in slightly, turn the whole of the right leg out. Good. And then begin again to bend your forward leg towards the right angle, keeping the arms supported by the back. Back outer foot pressing down, back inner thigh to outer thigh. Now, the instruction I often give, I'm guilty of, is reminding you to reach through the nail of the back middle finger. But actually, that movement is from the ribs. So I think of reaching back from the ribs as the other arm stays looking forward, and then look towards your right hand, trying to sink a little bit further. Breathe, 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 and then inhale to come up, bring the feet back to centre, bend the knees, and then come back. Good. Just let the breath come back. Getting quite warm in here with my lights on. And then let's go to the other side. So you bring the middle fingers to touch, bend the knees, step. You can jump if you like, but not if you've got any kind of injury, to take the feet nice and wide apart. Okay, just check the arms are growing out of the back, rather than being lifted up through the traps. Some alliteration there. Now turn your right foot in slightly, turn the whole of the left leg out. Good. And then see, can you begin to bend your left leg towards that right angle? If you had an extra pair of arms, one hand would be pressing that knee back, one hand would be reminding the inner thigh to rotate the other thigh. Now think of the ribs lengthening towards your back middle finger as you look towards your forward middle finger. Turn the head to look towards that forward hand. Good. Keep breathing. Can you sink the sit bone down maybe another inch and breathe? Good. And then carefully straighten the front leg, bring the feet back to centre, and then come back to the starting position. Good. Just again think of the not hanging the arms, they're connected into the shoulder joint. The wrists are nice and soft, elbows are soft, so the arms are long, but they're connected into your centre. Good. Now bring the middle fingers to touch again, bend the knees, and then step the feet nice and wide apart. Good. Turn your left foot in slightly, turn the whole of the right leg out. Good. Extend the right arm up towards the ceiling, and once more see if you can come into Teeter Trikonasana, this time with the arm going straight up. But careful, you've not rolled the shoulders forward. You want to keep them rolling back. Bring the left hand onto the outer hip. Look down at your foot and begin to bend your right leg once more towards the right angle. See if you can bring the right fingers onto the floor to the little toe side of the right foot and about a foot away and behind that foot. Hop your back leg in or slide it in and just see, can you stay here and play with the balance of just lifting and lowering that back foot. Just lifting and lowering. Can you breathe here? Keep the jaw nice and relaxed, and then carefully come up. Many of you will know where this is heading. So again, come back to Tadasana. Bring the middle fingers to touch. Bend the knees. Step the feet nice and wide apart. Again, just careful. You're not lifting the traps. That's it. The arms are connected into the back. Good. Now turn your right foot in slightly, turn the whole of the left leg out, extend the left arm and begin to come into Teeter Trikonasana, right arm straight up to begin with. Again, careful, you're not rolling that right shoulder forward. And then bring the right hand onto the outer hip. Begin to bend your left leg down towards the right angle, so you can bring the fingertips onto the floor to the little toe side of that foot. Move the hand away behind, about a foot behind and away from the little toe, and then just hop or slide your back leg in. And just see, can you breathe here? 3 points of support, and then just play. Can you breathe? Can you keep the jaw nice and relaxed? But just lifting that back foot a little bit. Good. And then carefully come out of it. Okay, just roll the shoulders back, come back into Tadasana. And then of course we're going to take this into Ardha Chandrasana or half moon pose. So if that previous variation was already giving you enough work, stay with working on that balance. But otherwise, bring the middle fingers to touch. Bend the knees, step your feet nice and wide apart again, ready for Teeter Trikonasana. So turn your left foot in slightly, turn the whole of the right leg out, extend the right arm towards the ceiling. The ribs move to bring you into Teeter Trikonasana, top arm up, chest nice and open. Bring the left hand onto the outer hip. Bend your right knee towards that right angle. Bring the fingers of the hand to the floor to support you. And then once more, hop or slide that back foot in. And then if from here you begin to straighten both legs at the same time. So your left leg is lifted hip height, and you want to really lengthen the left calf into the left heel. And then you try and turn the chest towards the ceiling, and then you take the top arm up again in line with the collarbone, and you're trying to touch the ceiling. Don't let that top shoulder roll forward. Keep breathing, and then inhale to come up. Good. Bring the feet back to centre, and then come back to the middle of your mat. Good. Just pause there. Good. And then let's do the other side. So you bring the middle fingers to touch, bend the knees, step the feet nice and wide apart. Hopefully you're getting the idea not to overwork through the traps, keeping that area nice and long. Turn the right foot in slightly, turn the whole of the left leg out. Start with straight legs. You extend the left arm up. You begin to come into Teeter Trikonasana once more. Then you bring the right hand onto the outer hip. Begin to bend that left leg to bring the hand to the floor to support you for balance. And then see if you can slide or hop that back foot in. Now take your time, just check here, you're breathing, you're not tensing in the jaw. And then see if you can begin to extend both legs at the same time. Top leg, right leg lifted hip height. Make sure your right leg is active. It's as though you're trying to touch the wall of the room behind you with that back heel. And then if you can, you turn the chest and take the top arm up. Keep breathing, keep breathing. Check your jaw is nice and relaxed. Standing leg is straight. And then carefully come out. Good. Just bring the feet, just come back to Tadasana once more. Just settle in Tadasana. Good. And then please come down onto the floor. So just come and lie down on the floor for a moment. And if you need just a little bit of support underneath the back of the head, please take that. But please lie down. I'll just change the position of the camera slightly. So lie down. If you need a blanket behind the head, please take it. And just have the arms down by your side to begin with. And then please cross your right leg over the left. So a good cross of the thighs. And begin to tilt your knees to the right as you breathe in. And then exhale, bring them back to center. So you're just tilting the knees to the right as you breathe in, and exhale, come back to center. Now, as the knees tilt to the right, careful to keep the tummy drawn back slightly, so this is a twist rather than a back bend, and then exhale, come back to center. As you're tilting the knees to the right, careful to keep your right shoulder heavy and soft. So it's not the shoulder coming with the knees, it's not a rolling onto the right hand side, it's a twist. We're getting the ribs to do something different on the right side to the left side. Good. Now as the knees tilt to the right, look with the head and eyes to the left, and then come back to center. So the knees tilt to the right, but you look with the head and eyes to the left. Good. And then come back to center. Now pause in the middle and then change the cross of the legs. So your left leg is crossed over the right. And again, both arms down by your side. Feel the chest is nice and open towards the ceiling. And then begin to tilt the knees to the left as you breathe in, but tummy stays back, and then exhale, come back to center. You can feel as the knees tilt to the left, the right side of the pelvis becomes light, the ribs on the right hand side become light, but those ribs on the left hand side get pressed more firmly into the floor. And the left ribs around the left scapula or shoulder blade are also just being asked to do something different to what they normally do. Now tilt the knees to the left, but look with the head and eyes to the right, trying to keep that right shoulder heavy. And once more, knees tilt to the left, but head and eyes tilt to the right. Good. And then exhale, come back to center. Now uncross the legs and take your arms out to the side at shoulder height. The palms are turned towards the ceiling. And begin to tilt both knees to the left, bring them back, and then both knees to the right. So they're hip distance or shoulder distance apart. You're tilting the knees once to the left, keep the tummy pulled in to bring the legs back to centre, and then tilting the knees to the right. Good. Now begin to roll the head and eyes in the opposite direction to the knees. So the head and eyes are going in the opposite direction to the knees. Good. And then begin to turn one palm towards the ceiling and one arm down. So the knees go to the right as the head and eyes look to the left, and one palm is turning towards the ceiling and the other is turning down towards the floor. Do you remember that funny thing we did in standing? One shoulder rolling forward and one tucking back, and how in standing I showed how the ribs were twisting to facilitate that arm movement. Now just keep the movement going and notice which hand are you looking at, the palm that's coming up or the palm that's going down. So for me it's the palm I'm looking at that's turned up towards the ceiling. See if you can change that so it's the palm that's looking down at the floor that you're looking at, without interrupting the flow of the movement. Good. So shoulders have to move. Good. And then pause, leave it alone, and then please come to lie on your front. So lie on the front with the legs just a comfortable distance apart. And then if you can, I've got to take my glasses off to do this, rest your forehead on the floor, on the mat. And then interlace your hands and bring your palms onto the back of the head, onto the back of the skull. So the head stays down, and then just see, can you lift the elbows off the mat and then put them back down. So you're lifting the elbows off the mat and then putting them back down. Again, just once more, lifting the elbows and putting them down. And then you remember that movement we did earlier with the hands behind the back. You can feel as the elbows lift, the shoulder blades want to come together, and then as the elbows go down, they release. See if you can begin to initiate this lifting of the elbows by drawing the shoulder blades back together and down to lift the elbows. And as the elbows come down, you release the shoulders. So think shoulders drawing back and down, squeezing together to help lift the elbows, and then bring the elbows down, release the shoulders. Now pause, bring your hands underneath your chin, so the chin is resting on the backs of the hands. Keep the legs long and comfortable distance apart. Now think of squeezing your bottom slightly as you lift the head and the hands together. So you're just looking slightly forward and then lower back down. So the hands, the elbows and the head are moving as a unit, and you're thinking of lengthening forward as you lift them up. So I'm not lifting high, I'm just looking slightly forward and then lowering back down. And then once more, lift the head and the hands together. Now keep the head where it is. Can you lower and lift the hands and the elbows down to the floor and up to the chin? Good. And then let everything come back down. Rest the forehead on the backs of the hands, and then just roll your pelvis gently from side to side. Now, many of you, my students, regular students, have seen this next movement before, but if you haven't and you need to look at it, please look at it. I'll describe it. You turn your face to the left so that your right cheek is down on the mat. Right cheek is on the mat, and have your right arm down on the floor beside you. And then bring your left hand, your left arm, into a press-up position. Press-up position. So the elbow is off the floor. And then turn your left fingers to the left, the hand to the left. So the fingers, the hand, is turned to the side rather than the fingers in the direction of the head. Turn the palm out, but keep the elbow lifted up towards the ceiling. And then move your left hand further away from you than your elbow. So the hand isn't just underneath the elbow, you move it further away from you than your elbow. And then see, can you, without pushing into the hand, straighten the arm. And then you let the elbow come forward again towards the fingers, and the shoulder.
What's your back arm doing? What's the other arm doing that we can't see?
It's just down by your side. Down by your side.
With the palm facing down?
Palm is facing up towards the ceiling. Sorry, Sarah, that time.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'll just this movement. I'll just show you from another angle, if I can. So you're down. So the hand is further away from you than the elbow. And then you try and straighten the arm without pushing into the hand. And when you bend the elbow, the shoulder you let come down towards the floor. So you think of straightening the arm and then bending the arm to let the shoulder come down towards the floor. And hopefully what you're feeling as you're doing this, if you can keep the ribs fairly quiet, is actually your shoulder is moving back on the ribs towards the spine. Some of you will do this, will roll the chest to avoid the movement. So see if you can keep your ribs nice and quiet. Good. Now pause. If you've got the movement, just move your left hand a little bit lower on the floor, and then try again to bend and straighten the arm without moving the hand. So you're just getting this movement of the shoulder. And then take the hand a little bit higher on the floor, and again just explore with this new position, this possibility of the shoulder going forward and back. Now, if that is ridiculously easy for you, you can bring the hand a little bit closer to you, but don't overdo it, because each different position of the hand will ask the shoulder to do something different. Now, leave it alone and then do the other side. So I'll just flip round, so hopefully you can see that. So just that you have the left cheek on the floor, the right hand is in a press-up position, the left arm is just down by your side. Turn the right fingers away from you and make sure the hand is further away from you than your elbow. And then without pushing into the hand, can you straighten the arm and then bend the elbow out to the side, so the shoulder is moving both forward to its full potential, and then it's going back on the ribs towards the spine. And then once you've explored that, try not to move a lot in the body or the pelvis to avoid the movement, and then maybe take your hand a little bit lower on the floor and again begin to explore this movement, possible movement of the shoulder moving on the ribs. Take the hand a little bit higher and again just explore this possibility of that shoulder moving freely. Good. Now, if you're all still with me, pause, and then bring one hand on top of the other, and then bring your right cheek onto the backs of the hands, right cheek onto the backs of the hands. And then bend your knees and have your knees and feet together. glued together in your mind's eye. So my right cheek is on the backs of the hands, feet and knees are glued together. And then begin to tilt your legs as a unit towards the right, behind you, and then bring them back to centre. So you're tilting the knees. If the legs are glued together, it means your left thigh, left knee is going to come off the floor because it's resting on the right thigh as you tilt the knees. And you'll notice as you get used to this movement, one elbow is lengthened a little bit on the floor and the other is shortened a little bit on the floor. Because as the movement goes through the chest, it affects the position of the shoulders and the elbows. Now come back to centre and go carefully, begin to tilt the knees to the left. They're still glued together, and what will happen is the right thigh will come off the floor and rest on the left leg. I say go carefully because we're introducing a double twist in the spine as opposed to the other direction, which was undoing a twist. Good. And then pause and then turn so your left cheek is on the backs of the hands, so you're looking to your right elbow, and then begin to tilt the knees, the legs to the left first of all, and back to centre. Just get into a nice easy rhythm, not holding the breath, and you'll feel how the weight is shifted to the one side of the chest, the one side of the tummy as you tilt the knees. And then come back to centre and begin to tilt them to the right, still looking to the right, tilting them to the right, keeping them glued together, and then come back. Now begin to go from side to side. You're still looking towards the right elbow, from side to side. Wherever you get to is good. That's it. See if you can feel this twist travelling all the way up through between the spine and the shoulder blades. Good. And then leave it alone, just come back to the centre, bring the forehead to rest on the backs of the hands, and then just roll the pelvis a little bit from side to side. Now look slightly forward and come up into a baby sphinx position. So elbows underneath the shoulders. Just be careful you're not letting the elbows flare out to the side. So you want to really be fussy that your elbows are underneath your shoulders and your hands are in line with the elbows rather than coming together. Now from here, see if you can think of sinking between your shoulders so that your shoulder blades squeeze together behind you, and then push down into the arms to feel the shoulder blades beginning to wrap around the ribs. So you let yourself sink between the shoulders and then you push down through the forearms. Think of those shoulders wrapping around the ribs rather than coming up to the ears. Press down into the forearms and then once more sink between the shoulders and then press down into the forearms for the back to become wide. Now you're probably not seeing this because of my t-shirt, but what's actually happening, my ribs, I'll try and emphasize it, I sink, the ribs come down, and then as I come up I can actually see there's a gap there, so my whole spine is sinking between the shoulder blades, and then everything lifts to press down into the forearms. Just do one more like that, sinking and pressing down to come up. Bring the forehead onto the backs of the hands again, and then just once more slowly roll the pelvis a little bit from left to right. Good. And then bring the hands by the chest, curl the toes under, lift the tummy to come out onto all fours, and then point the toes and just let your bottom sit back towards the heels to come into Adho Mukha Virasana, forehead down. Just breathe here in this stretch. just to help the back muscles to lengthen. Good. And then please come back onto the back. Back onto the back. Keep your legs bent up to begin with. Fold the knees in towards the chest. Keep the knees together. Take a breath in. As you breathe out, bring the forehead towards the knees and the knees towards the forehead. And then release the head and shoulders back down. And then once more, take a breath in. As you exhale, bring the forehead towards the knees. Good. And then release. Now, if your back is okay, stretch the legs out for Shavasana. If you have a bolster, you can use that behind the backs of the knees. Tuck the shoulder blades into the back of the body. Check the eyes are soft. Might just need to lengthen through the back of the neck. Use the thumbs to draw the buttock flesh towards the heels. If you have glasses, take those off if you feel safe to do so. And then just come with the eyes closed back to the breath. Full inhalation, full in the sense you're allowing a full inhalation to create that space in the body. Space in the sense of length down towards the feet and all the way up towards the ears. And then also a sense of width to the sides with each inhalation. And then also depth with each breath in. So. Check the jaw is nice and relaxed, the eyes are soft, the tongue just resting in the bottom palate. And then please begin to wriggle the fingers and toes. Bring your feet to standing, knees bent. And then roll to the side and use your hands to support you, just to come and sit easy cross-legged towards the front. Bring the palms into Namaskarasana. Close the eyes. Bring the forehead down. Release the hands, and then on inhalation, slowly open the eyes and look up. Thank you very much, everyone.